So, how much has changed in a year? As we near 48 hours until the 2019 NBA draft, we're going to redraft last year's class, which was headlined by DeAndre Ayton going number 1 to the Suns, and a Doncic-Young trade between the Mavs and the Hawks. Let's take a look at how the top 10 unfolded a season ago. Marvin Bagley went 2nd overall to the Kings, and then you had Luka Doncic, who was drafted by the Hawks and then traded to the Mavericks for Trae Young. Jaren Jackson Jr. in between. Mo Bamba went 6th to the Magic. Colin Sexton to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Kevin Knox to the Knicks. I'm Chris Hassel. Welcome to our 2018 redraft special. That's right, 2018. We're going back a year and seeing how things would have unfolded if hindsight was in our favor a year ago. We've got Gary Parrish, Reed Forgrave, and Tim Doyle along the way to help us out with the number 1 pick in the 2018 NBA draft. Tim Doyle is picking for the Phoenix Suns. DeAndre Ayton was good, Tim, but not as good as maybe a couple of other guys in that draft class. Who would you go with if you were Phoenix and you had a redo?
I think if Phoenix could do it all over again, they would take Luka Doncic at number 1. I mean, he chased Dennis Smith Jr. out of town because that was Dennis Smith Jr.'s team. He was the star of the future. I actually like Dennis Smith Jr. He sent me 3 pair of sneakers. So you can buy media members. Getting back to Luka Doncic, he is the right-handed version of James Harden. And frankly, I've never seen a player like James Harden before. And Doncic took the NBA by storm, averaging over 21 points a game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. This is now his squad. He's a dynamic playmaker and scorer. I think his shooting is only going to improve. But the problem was, guys, you watched the grainy videos. You saw the YouTube videos, and you were like, what's his competition like? Well, that competition must have been pretty good because everything he was doing overseas translated to the NBA, and the thought of this guy for 14 or 15 years in the league is scary. I think one day he's going to be an MVP.
He was top 3 among rookies in points, assists, and rebounds, likely to be the Rookie of the Year in the NBA. Reed, do you buy into that? I mean, is it a slam dunk to go back and take Luka Doncic if you're the Suns, or are you sticking with DeAndre Ayton?
Yeah, it's a no-doubter. I agree with just about everything Tim Doyle just said there, especially that this guy's going to be a future MVP. I mean, Doncic, he's a stud. If you look at the list of the players over the past 40 years who've had 25-5 rookie seasons, there are 3. Their names are LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Tyreek Evans. Sorry about the Tyreek Evans. It's a little weird. And then Luka Doncic is the 4th. Doncic is a stud. He's a winner. Everything he did in Europe has converted. And once he gets an NBA-like body, he's going to be, like Tim said, an MVP candidate.
So it seems like a slam dunk for both Tim and Reed. Gary, what do you think? Is Luka Doncic at number 1 a season ago in hindsight every bit as much of a slam dunk as we think Zion Williamson being number 1 on Thursday is?
It certainly appears so. Again, with the benefit of hindsight, there were questions about Luka, probably questions that should not have been as heavily tied to him as they were, but still questions about whether, his game would translate to the NBA against bigger, taller, faster, more athletic defenders. And what we found out really pretty quickly is that he had no issues. People wondered if he'd be able to create separation, get those shots off. People wondered if he'd be able to get to the rim consistently. He did everything in the NBA that he did in Europe. I don't know if he's a future MVP, but I do think he's a star, a future all-star, and an unbelievable pick for that Dallas franchise.
Luka Doncic at number 1 in our 2018 NBA draft redraft. Let's move on to the number 2 pick. The Sacramento Kings took Marvin Bagley III. Reed, who would you go with if you had that 2nd pick over again?
Look, Tim had the easy pick. Doncic, I think, is so obvious. This is where things get a little bit hard. Some people might argue for Trae Young. He's likely going to finish 2nd Rookie of the Year voting. I don't think Trae Young alongside De'Aaron Fox works. What I came down to was not Marvin Bagley. It was between either DeAndre Ayton or Jaren Jackson Jr. And I think this will probably be a controversial pick, but I went with DeAndre Ayton. He had a really good rookie year. He was clearly overshadowed by guys like Trae Young, guys like Luka Doncic, but he averaged 16 and 10 as a rookie, and he didn't take a single three-pointer. I was talking to him at the All-Star break, and he told me, he's like, I've been working on that. I did it in college. We're waiting to bust that out. But when this guy starts stretching the floor from three, he's going to be a dynamic NBA 5, modern-day NBA 5. The obvious concern with DeAndre Ayton is the defense. Sometimes it's just an effort question. Sometimes it's an IQ question. But I know when I've spoken with him, he's insulted by the very perception that he is not a great defender, that he's not working on defense. So you better believe that is something that is very much on his radar.
So Reed said was thinking maybe about Jaren Jackson, but deciding to go with DeAndre Ayton. Gary, you live in Memphis there. You saw Jaren Jackson Jr. up close and personal. Who has more upside, in your opinion, Jackson or DeAndre Ayton?
I do think it's Jaren Jackson Jr., and I want to be clear. I would have had this one wrong a year ago. I thought Ayton was the superior prospect. I had real questions about Jaren Jackson Jr. They were rooted mostly in the fact that he was not great at Michigan State. He was good, but, he only played like 21, 22 minutes a game. And my question was always simple. If this guy is actually special, why is he only playing 21, 22 minutes per game? And I think the truth is, and I say this with all due respect to Tom Izzo, who is a Hall of Famer and someone I've known for a long, long time, I think he misused Jaren Jackson Jr., or at the very least did not take advantage of his skill set, because Jaren showed quickly with the Grizzlies that he really is a space-creating 5, a shot-blocking, rim-protecting, three-point shooting big man, and that is what everybody wants in the modern NBA. He only played a limited number of games because the Grizzlies shut him down toward the end of the season, but I promise you this, if the Grizzlies could undo it, they wouldn't. They love him, and I do think that he's probably the second best prospect, or at least top 3 prospect in this draft, alongside Luka Doncic and Trae Young.
And Jaren Jackson Jr. still on the board in our redraft as we hit number 3 after Luka Doncic goes 1 to the Suns and DeAndre Ayton goes 2 to the Sacramento Kings. The Hawks were here at 3 a year ago, and they could have taken Trae Young or Luka Doncic. They ended up trading down, giving up Luka Doncic and taking Trae Young, which, it seems like it's going to work out for both of those teams. But, Gary, you've got this pick. You can't have Luka Doncic anymore. I'm guessing you're going to stick with Trae Young?
Yeah, it's a coin flip, I think, between Jaren Jackson and Trae Young, but I didn't have the heart to take Trae Young away from the Atlanta Hawks at this point after an incredible rookie season. You had a player efficiency rating above 17, which is very good for a rookie. He scored 35 points in back-to-back games. First rookie to do that since Allen Iverson. Really got a nice bullet point page on his Wikipedia page of accomplishments that players his age do not normally accomplish, guards his age do not normally accomplish. And so I know he had a rough summer league, and people were skeptical after that, but he really got comfortable as that NBA season unfolded, put up big numbers, made big shots, and I know that he's a liability on the defensive end, but at that point guard position, defense just isn't the most important thing. James Harden is not great on that end of the court. Steph Curry is not great on that end of the court. Damian Lillard is not great on that end of the court. And I just talked about 3 of the best guards in the world. So Trae Young, he's never going to be a plus defender, but he brings so much at the offensive end in terms of playmaking, pass making, and shot making that he looks like a future All-Star himself.
We're going to snake our way through this draft with our 3 experts who are helping us redraft the 2018 lottery. So Gary has the next pick as well, the Memphis Grizzlies, and I think it's academic here. You say that they're extremely happy with Jaren Jackson Jr. He's still on the board. Guessing you're taking him.
Yeah, the Grizzlies front office, in advance of last year's draft, when they were explaining why they were happy to get 4, would have rather had 1, 2, or 3, but only wanted to be in the top 4. Their estimation was that this was a 4-player draft. And I think I might take it out to a 5-player draft and include Marvin Bagley in that, because Bagley was very good in his rookie season at Sacramento. But I do think probably there's 4 players that go in whatever order if we're redoing this a year later. And if DeAndre Ayton, Luka Doncic, and Trae Young are off the board, Jaren Jackson has to be the pick. Shot above 50% from the field, 36% from three-point range, block shots, authored shots. And just, it was one of the youngest players in the NBA, just a teenager in that league. And he was terrific. He really didn't look out of place too often. They shut him down at the end of the year. just to be careful. Also because they weren't making the playoffs, to increase the lottery odds, which allows them to draft Ja Morant a little later on this week. But yeah, Jared Jackson's the pick. I really don't think anybody else makes sense there.
Reed has our next pick. It's the Dallas Mavericks, who kind of got the shaft a little bit in this redraft because in hindsight, we now know about Luka Doncic, so he goes number 1 overall. There's no Trae Young on the board either for the Dallas Mavericks. But Gary Parrish did say this is eventually going to be a 5-player draft. Marvin Bagley III included. Is that who you're going with at 5, Reed?
Absolutely. That Gary Parrish guy, man, he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. The gravity of this, the fact that here we are in a redraft 1 year later, and the top 5 picks a year ago are the same top 5 picks that we have now, that we didn't have a player like a Donovan Mitchell who made a massive jump into an obvious top 5 pick. We didn't have a player like Markelle Fultz, who I know his situation was completely unique, but we see it every year. Top 5 guys a year out don't look like a top 5 guy at all. Bagley had an interesting season. There was dissension with the head coach in the front office, how much Bagley should play. But ultimately, the dude averaged 15 points, 7.5 rebounds, shot confidently from 3. He's an incredible athlete. There's sky-high upside. And I actually really, really like the possibility of Marvin Bagley being paired with Luke Walton. That fast tempo game that Luke Walton loves to run with De'Aaron Fox, with Marvin Bagley, with Buddy Hield. I think this is going to continue to be, and here I am. I'm saying he's on the Kings. What I mean is with the Mavericks. If he's with Dennis Smith Jr., I do think that Marvin Bagley, this would be a great pairing, assuming that that trade wouldn't have been made to send Dennis Smith Jr. to the Knicks.
Yeah, he went second to the Kings last season, goes 5 in our redraft. Tim, he falls down a few slots, still in the top 5 though. Is that an indictment on Bagley, or just about the strength of the other 4 that went in front of him?
Yeah, I think it says a lot about the strength of the other 4 that went in front of him. I think a guy like Trae Young's just going to put butts in the seats. So from a business perspective, you had to figure he was going to be taken high, and he lived up to the height. I think Atlanta's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Is it fair to say, guys, that Bagley and Ayton are going to be the comparisons when we look back at this draft 5-7 years from now? Because they're kind of different players. Bagley's more of a pick-and-pop type guy, and I know DeAndre Ayton's telling everybody he can shoot the 3. Why not get your big fanny on the block and just bully people down low? Because no one knows how to score down low. Heck, no one knows how to defend versus low post scorers. Guys that we grew up against, like the Ewings and Akeem Olajuwons and David Robinson. Those guys could score down low. Why? It's not cool to drop step and just dunk it on somebody. Those 2 guys are going to be compared on their careers because both those guys came out at the same time. Both play similar positions, but they're completely different players.
So Marvin Bagley goes 5th to the Mavs. We move on to the Orlando Magic at 6, and Tim Doyle has that pick for the Magic last season, taking Mo Bamba with this pick, but he's going to slide a bit. Tim, I know you like a guard that's out there and available.
Yeah, the Magic have been trying to figure out their point guard position for a long time. Heck, Rafer Alston was their point guard at one point. I'm going to go with Colin Sexton now. I'm a little biased, Chris. Chris, why am I a little biased?
3 on 5.
Sexton? Say again?
3 on 5 in Brooklyn. He took
That's
it
right.
basically 1 on 5 against a nationally ranked team.
Chris and I called that game where he had 40 points. He only had 2 other teammates out there. I questioned his explosiveness. I knew he was strong, and I knew he could put the ball on the floor. He averaged 16 points a game, but he did take 14 shots a game to get to those 16 points. But I think he's only getting better. I think he's still learning how to play the position as far as getting his other teammates involved and being that true point guard. Averaged less than 4 assists a game. But the guy can score at an elite level. He's got a great body, obviously quick as a cat. I just wasn't sure about the explosion towards the rim. He proved me wrong in that point. I think he's going to be a 20-point-a-game scorer for the Magic or whoever else he's playing for now, luckily, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
We've reached the Tim Doyle portion of the program because, Tim, you have our next pick as well. The Chicago Bulls at number 7. Last year took Carter Jr. This year, who you taking at 7 in hindsight as we do our 2018 redraft?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Shea Gilgeous. How do you say that, Hassel?
Gilius?
Alexander? Yeah,
Gilgeous.
That guy, okay?
You got me all screwed up
anybody
now.
who has their name hyphenated, I used to always make fun of on the court just because it's like, come on, man. Really? Just pick out a name. But this guy can play. He's long. He's 6'6". He has a great pace to him. And of all the guys we talked about, he played on a team that won last year. Clippers made the playoffs, and he played valuable minutes. He played in all 82 games, and he was a valuable part to that squad. Supposedly, he's untouchable right now on their roster, and I love the way that his offensive game has really developed. That was the big question mark for him, was like, all right, you can guard, you look the part, but how are you going to score at the NBA level? His shooting's improved. He's got a silky smooth handle. I think this guy's only going to get better and better as time wears on.
What'd you call Shea Gillius Alexander? Shea Gilligan's Alexander?
Gilgis!
Goodness gracious, Tim. You draft a guy you don't even know how to pronounce his name. Tim Doyle, Gary Parrish, and Reed Forgrave redrafting the 2018 NBA draft for us here on CBS Sports HQ. We have reached the bottom half of the draft lottery, and now we get into some risers and fallers. How about a guy that went in the second round that's going to jump up into our lottery here in the redraft? You'll find out who that is coming up. Back on CBS Sports HQ, we are live and we are into the back half of the lottery in our 2018 redraft, about to see how far guys like Landry Shamet and Kevin Huerter rise up our list. We've drafted the first 7 in hindsight, and this is a look at what those two did a season ago. Bright future for a couple of guys who went in the back half of the first round who might rise up into the lottery here in our redraft. I'm Chris Hassel. I've got Gary Parrish, Reed Forgrave, and Tim Doyle with me. And Reed Forgrave, you are drafting for the Cleveland Cavaliers, who took Colin Sexton a season ago. He's no longer on the board. Who are you going with?
Oh, at number 8, I really like Landry Shamet. The dude can just flat out shoot the ball. 42% from 3 as a rookie. Frankly, I think this is a guy who might have been a lottery pick if it weren't for injury concerns coming out of Wichita State. But it looks like those injury concerns, at least right now, seem cured. Is he a star in the NBA? No. But is he an elite shooter and a great role player and a guy that the Clippers just absolutely feed from the Philadelphia 76ers and that Tobias Harris deal? Yeah. I mean, this guy, to me, has a very, very bright future as a 10, 12, 15-year NBA player.
Biggest riser so far in our redraft, up 18 spots from number 26 overall to number 8 overall to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Next up, the New York Knicks, who took Kevin Knox a season ago. Gary Parrish, you're drafting for the Knicks. Who you taking at 9?
Mitchell Robinson. This is a guy who, coming out of high school, was considered a 5-star prospect, a projected lottery pick, and then I think most people know the story. He goes to Western Kentucky, leaves Western Kentucky, comes back to Western Kentucky, leaves Western Kentucky again, never plays college basketball. So there were real questions about just red flags on a personal level, decision-making. Could you trust him? But ultimately, he was going to be worth a roll of the dice, and he had a terrific rookie season. Became the first rookie in NBA history to shoot 64% from the field while averaging at least 2.4 blocks per game. He had a PER a little above 22, which was about 3 points higher than Luka Doncic's player efficiency rating. And so, obviously, for sensible reasons, Mitchell Robinson didn't go anywhere close to the lottery last year. But if we redid it tonight, he absolutely would.
And that is now our biggest riser in our redraft, from number 36 overall to number 9 overall, a jump of 27 spots for Mitchell Robinson, and that's a Knicks draft pick instead of Kevin Knox there. Let's go to number 10 in the Philadelphia 76ers. A season ago, they traded down to number 16 for Zaire Smith. Gary, you have this pick as well.
I'll go with Kevin Huerter. Obviously, the Sixers could use shooting, and he showed in his rookie season that he's going to be a reliable three-point shooter in the NBA. Shot above 38% from beyond the three-point line. And, I know I'm not telling secrets here, but it is worth reiterating. Shooting has never been more valued in the NBA than it is right now. I mean, everybody, there's a premium on guys who can make shots. The Lakers are about to try to build a team with about $23 million, build a team around LeBron James and Anthony Davis that is largely filled with shooters. And so Kevin Huerter, he's got good size for his position and can show that he is a reliable three-point shooter. He's a guy that, I think would be a lottery pick this time around.
Reed, do you think that this could change things moving forward, considering that in this redraft here, and I know it's just us, but you guys are experts, do you think that maybe teams are going to value players that can bring a certain skill set instead of maybe just potential down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you get further on in the lottery and later into the first round, the odds of getting a star just isn't that great. But the odds of getting a star role player, a guy who stars in their role, like a Kevin Huerter, like a Landry Shamet, that's where you can get big-time wins as a general manager. So, look, if you're drafting the top 5, you want that superstar potential. You want a guy with a body of a DeAndre Ayton or a guy with a athletic abilities of a Marvin Bagley. But once you get further on, you got to look at skill set, and you got to look at guys who can be contributors and, frankly, can be contributors pretty soon in their careers on that rookie contract.
I'm just getting a breaking report here that Kevin Huerter just had his first chest hair sprout. I mean, look at the picture of the guy. How old is he, 12? He's playing in the NBA? I think he's only going to get better with time.
Tim Doyle always bringing some levity here to CBS Sports HQ as we redraft 2018. We got the Hornets up next at number 11. Reed, you have this pick. Last year, they traded down to number 12 for Miles Bridges.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually thrilled as the Hornets general manager to be able to take Wendell Carter Jr. He had sort of an up-and-down rookie year with the Bulls, got injured and shut down about halfway through that year, but he showed lots of potential. We still haven't seen what the trio of Wendell Carter, Zach LaVine, and Lauri Markkanen really looks like. They hardly played together, but I think that has sky-high potential for the Bulls. And in this fantasy scenario, the Hornets, frankly, they've struck out in so many big men in the past. This is a guy who just feels like a solid, if not more than solid, NBA big. He averaged 10 points, 7 rebounds in his rookie year. He only shot 18% from 3, which is concerning. But if you look back to his one season at Duke, where he was just, frankly, an odd fit next to that roster they had next to Marvin Bagley, he shot 41% from 3 that one season. So he certainly has potential to be that stretch big.
The Clippers were sitting there with the 12th pick. They traded up to number 11. It really worked out for them. They got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but he went 7 in our redraft here. Tim, you have this pick for the L.A. Clippers. We've already had one player who was drafted in the second round taken in the first round. You're going with another.
Yeah, with Alexander gone, I'm going to go Jalen Brunson, and he really impressed me because there was questions about his athleticism, right? Great college player, but how is that going to translate to the NBA game? Now, he goes down to Dallas, and last year the franchise, well, they had a huge identity switch to start the year, right? This was Dennis Smith Jr.'s team, then Luka Doncic takes over, and all the while, Brunson started about half the games, averaged nearly 10 points a game. I think he has Andre Miller written all over him. And maybe for those who are a little bit younger, I think he could be like a Fred VanVleet type. I think he has tremendous value. Obviously, he's going to be low maintenance on that bench. He's going to understand his role. Don't think he'll ever be an NBA All-Star, but I think he'd be an ideal fit on any team. I think the assist, the scoring, everything is going to go up in year number 2. He doesn't necessarily have to play the one. He can play off the ball. Needs to improve his shooting where he becomes a knockdown shooter from 3 playing with Doncic. But I think this guy's going to be in the NBA for a long time.
The Clippers also had the 13th pick in 2018. They took Jerome Robinson here. Tim, you have this pick again. Who are you going with?
I'm going to go with Mo Bamba. Now, last year was a disappointing year, right? But watching him play in the few games that he did play, I mean, you see a 7'10" wingspan. I mean, like, it's unheard of. It's almost like he's carnival basketball. Like, avatars are playing basketball. And he shoots it really easily. Now, it didn't go in a bunch, but it wasn't awful. This is a guy who's just going to keep getting better time after time on the floor. Obviously can block shots, defend, guard the pick and roll. But I think he's still finding his way. That's an unusual roster down there in Orlando. They just, like, stockpiled a bunch of, like, 6'10" guys, and he's one of them. But I think he's going to be a heck of an NBA player. Maybe not next year, but down the line. But when you have a 7'10" wingspan, I'm sorry, you have to be drafted in the lottery.
Mo Bamba dropping from 6th to 13th in our redraft. We've got one more lottery pick in our redraft of 2018. Reed, you're picking for the Denver Nuggets, who a season ago took Michael Porter Jr.
I'm going to pick a guy who didn't have a great rookie season. He didn't have a bad rookie season. In fact, he didn't have a rookie season. It's the same guy they picked a year ago. That's Michael Porter Jr. Look, this is a guy who going into his one-and-done year at my alma mater, University of Missouri, was considered a potential #1 overall pick, a sure thing top 5 pick. And he lost that basically the entire season injury, lost basically his entire rookie season injury. But the potential of this young man as an elite scorer, you used to hear some of those Kevin Durant comparisons. Those are not right, but you see where they come from, like a very long, athletic, natural scorer. To me, he's a better version of Brandon Ingram. The injury thing is a huge question mark. I don't need to tell you that. But if he pans out, we're going to look back at this draft 3 years from now and be like, man, they should have rolled the dice on this guy. Could be like a near Joel Embiid situation where you have a couple lost years at the beginning, but he turns out to be a star.
They had a handful of teams in our redraft that ended up with the very same player, including the Denver Nuggets at number 14 with Michael Porter Jr. You had the Hawks still ending up with Trae Young because there was no trade in our redraft with the Dallas Mavericks. Marvin Bagley III still went to the Memphis Grizzlies. The big notes here, Luka Doncic moving up to the #1 overall pick of the Phoenix Suns, and everybody agreed with that. And you also had some guys fall out of the top 10. I believe the biggest faller out of the top 10 was Mikal Bridges, who fell from 10 to 18. Kevin Knox dropped from 9th to 16th. So there you have it, our redraft of the 2018 NBA Draft. My special thanks to Tim Doyle, Gary Parrish, and Reed Forgrave joining me here on CBS Sports HQ. We look forward to the 2019 NBA Draft on Thursday. Tomorrow, we're going to have the very last mock draft for 2019, our mock 3.0 at noon Eastern right here on HQ.